love the people. We love the mountains, the lakes, and the rivers. We're also huge Atlanta Hawks fans, and we are huge Georgia Bulldogs fans. I'm not a politician. I'm not an activist. I'm an American. So why am I here? I'm here as a resident of Georgia to give you my perspective on citizen voting. As everyone here knows, over the past few election cycles, there have been significant concerns about the integrity of our elections here in Georgia. For example, in 2018, Stacey Abrams and Democratic Party supporters were convinced the 2018 elections had problems. In 2020, many Republican Party supporters were convinced that the 2020 election had problems. When good people in both the Democrat and Republican parties cannot accept the results of Georgia elections, we have problems. It isn't healthy for a country to battle over the legitimacy of our elections and our political leaders every 2 to 4 years. So with this in mind, I decided I needed to get involved to do something. I wasn't sure what, but I wanted to get involved in some small way to improve the process. A good friend of mine, Chris Arts, and I talked, and he talked to me about an organization named Americans for Citizen Voting. He talked to me about this growing problem in the United States where cities around the U.S. have started to allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. At first, I was skeptical that this was really happening. Everyone knows you must be a U.S. citizen to vote in the United States elections, or so I thought. After talking to him and reading up on the issue, I found out that this is a real issue and a growing problem. And I do consider this to be a problem. If you allow non-citizens to vote in local elections, how do you make sure they don't vote in state or federal elections? States struggle to maintain one accurate voter roll. How can they maintain 2 accurate voter rolls? And isn't this also a slippery slope? Won't this lead to a movement to allow non-citizens to vote in state and federal elections? Well, and what about foreign influence in our elections? Allowing citizens of other countries to vote in our elections is the epitome of foreign influence in our elections. From my perspective, allowing non-citizens to vote will not bring Americans together. It will make our elections more chaotic and more difficult to manage and create more division in America. If we want less controversial elections, we should reestablish the principle that U.S. voters should only be U.S. citizens. So I thought, what better way to get involved to improve the political process than at the beginning of the voting process, where we reestablish who is legally allowed to vote in U.S. elections. Now, maybe some of you still believe that only U.S. citizens can vote in U.S. elections, and maybe you think there is no need to make any changes. Well, the truth is that non-citizens can and do vote in municipal and school board elections in certain cities in California, Illinois, Maryland, Vermont, and now even in my hometown of New York. Now, you might not be able to tell by my accent, but I was born and raised in the Bronx in New York City. I still have a lot of family and a lot of friends still living there. And in case you didn't know, just a few weeks ago, New York City and former Mayor Bill de Blasio passed a law that will allow 800,000 non-U.S. citizens to vote in New York elections. None of my family had a say in this matter. None of my friends had a say in this matter. U.S. citizens didn't have a say in this matter. New York politicians made this decision on their own. And what voting requirements did Bill de Blasio and New York City establish? To vote, you must be a lawful permanent resident. You must be authorized to work in the U.S. And you must be a resident of New York City for 30 days. That's right. 30 days working in New York, and you can determine who will be the mayor of the largest city in the United States. You might wonder, what is the legal or the constitutional basis for allowing non-citizens to vote? Well, first let me tell you what the New York Constitution says about who can vote. It says every citizen shall be entitled to vote. Now, to most people, that sounds like only citizens can vote, but not to New York City politicians. The legal loophole they used to allow non-citizens to vote was, according to these politicians, They themselves say this constitutional language doesn't explicitly exclude non-citizens from voting. Now, to anyone listening here who thinks, well, that happened in New York, that could never happen in Georgia, first let me tell you what the Georgia Constitution says. It says every person who is a citizen shall be entitled to vote. Doesn't this sound a lot like the New York State Constitution? It does, because they're very similar in that way. And we know the loophole that New York City just used to allow non-citizens to vote. Can anyone think of any politician in Georgia who might want to use this same loophole?
Starts with a K.
A few come to my mind. So, and also, to anyone who doesn't know, in 2016, a city in Georgia, Clarkston, Georgia, attempted to allow non-citizens to vote. And remember, we're in 2022. We will be voting for our next governor later this year. One of our candidates running for governor is Stacey Abrams. She is unapologetically open to allowing non-citizens to vote. In 2018, when discussing the Democrat blue wave, she described it as including many Americans, and she listed off many Americans. But she also said it is comprised of those who are documented and undocumented. She, of course, was referring to non-citizens being part of the Democrat blue wave. Also, in 2019, in an interview with Margaret Hoover of PBS, Stacey Abrams publicly stated she would not oppose non-citizens voting. Now let me shift gears for a minute. Growing up in the Bronx and later in my life working for a multinational corporation here in Georgia, I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to meet and to get to know many people from all over the world, including many people who immigrated to the United States. And recently, as a volunteer for Americans for Citizen Voting, I've had the opportunity to speak with many recent immigrants about their experiences in becoming a citizen and their perspective regarding non-citizen voting. Their stories are powerful and they're very, very touching. Here's one of my favorites from a person named Barbara. She starts out, my family immigrated to America when I was 5 years old. We came searching for a better life. We arrived legally and we eventually applied for citizenship when I was around 12 years old. She said my parents' English was very shaky. My sister and I helped my parents learn English and study for the exam to become a U.S. citizen. After many long days of work and many long nights of study, they eventually passed the citizen test. The path to citizenship was a proud and special experience for my family. She said we were sworn in a large courtroom surrounded by many other immigrants from around the world with similar stories. There were many hugs and there were many tears. It was a day we will never forget. I am very grateful to be an American. I respect the process of becoming a citizen, and I believe that it is my humble privilege to be a citizen. Citizen-only voting is important because privileges like voting come with membership. As an example, all large companies such as Apple and Amazon and others hold annual meetings. She says to vote on shareholder proposals, everyone must be a shareholder, their version of membership. In a similar way, to vote in U.S. elections, everyone must be a citizen. This is the United States version of membership. As a citizen that has participated in the immigration process, I place a unique value on my opportunity to cast my vote. I show up in person, I stand in line, I vote in the rain, in the sun, in the cold, or the heat, and then I cast my vote. I do this because voting is a precious privilege that I earned when I became a citizen. I love Barb's story. You can tell how hard her family worked to become citizens. You can tell how proud her family was when they became citizens. You can tell how proud they were to vote in America. She called it a precious privilege. This is so moving to me. This is how I feel about being a citizen of the United States. This is how I feel about my right to vote. Most Americans feel the same way about being a citizen and voting. This precious privilege that she talked about is called voting. It is not something to be cheapened by political expediency, just so one party can have a political advantage over another party in the next election. contact your state representative, your senator, and the governor, and tell them to amend the Georgia Constitution to say only U.S. citizens can vote. Thank you very much.